Assalamu alaikum everybody. My name is Samar Hasan and I'm the founder of Epiphany. जैसे कि आप सब जानते हैं मेरा नाम समर हसन है और मैं Epiphany की फाउंडर हूँ और आज हम आई डोंट नो कौन सा नंबर है इम्पैक्टिंग लाइव्स का, लेकिन फिर से हम इम्पैक्टिंग लाइव्स में वापस आए हैं। आज की हमारी जो गेस्ट हैं वो बहुत ही स्पेशल हैं। शी इज ऑल्सो अ बीकनाइट जस्ट लाइक मी. I'm guessing we're just a year or a couple of years apart in terms of school years. So I'm absolutely, delighted to have her on the show today. But before we start, I'd like to kind of reflect a little bit कि हम impacting lives में कर क्यों रहे हैं. So, तकरीबन 2 साल से people kept telling me, why don't you do something? Why don't you launch, your own YouTube channel? You should talk about a lot of the things that you've been doing, different जो आपका career है. Why don't you try mapping that out for other people? Why don't you offer advice? वैसे तो इतनी unpointed advice देती रहती हो, and so on and so forth, right? But I think for me, it didn't come together until this year, until COVID, I guess, because सबसे जो important चीज हुई वो ये all of us are stuck at home and all of us have now entered into a new normal, right? और हम इस new normal में we're trying to figure out कि हमें कौन सा path select करना है. अब हमें क्या करना चाहिए? So it's a lot of self-reflection that is going on at this moment in time. We're actually trying to figure out what to do next. अभी तक हम क्या करते आए हैं, हमें कौन सी direction अब pick करनी चाहिए? I think that's the biggest, kind of learning that everybody is faced with nowadays. So impacting lives is तरह, if you think about it, there are so many people out there. जिन्होंने अपनी पूरी लाइफ डेडिकेट की है to serve other human beings, right? So whether it's education, whether it is working with differently abled people, whether it is working on extending interest-free loans to people, उनकी micro entrepreneurship को आप extend करना चाह रहे हो, but all of these things, how is it that you find this path? कैसे होता है क्या आप खुद choose करते हो, or does the path choose you, right? And why? At the end of the day, we're questioned a lot as well. जब आप impact की बात करते हो तो काफी सारे questions आते हैं कि ओ अच्छा ठीक है, are you Mother Teresa, or why are you doing this? आपका reason क्या है? Because oftentimes it seems as if creating impact is not compatible with earning and living sustainably. And there is always this big, huge challenge that keeps coming up again and again when it comes to peer pressure. And when it also comes to comparing yourself with other people, right? So I think we tend to, as human beings, we tend to look across and we tend to, look at our peers and we try to see, wo kya kar raha hai? Where has that person reached in his career, her career, and what are we doing? Right? And at times it becomes difficult to justify to yourself even why are you pursuing a certain path. At the same time, jab aap ek path pursue karte ho, excellence and impact, the kind of happiness that you find, the kind of contentment and satisfaction that you find, that is sometimes missing, right? A lot of times, perhaps you're unable to, reach that particular pinnacle if you are not creating impact. So, impacting lives, the whole purpose behind it is essentially to find that, that those reasons, what motivates different people, why do they pursue lives of impact? And while they're pursuing lives of impact, do they actually, at the end of the day, also end up making money? Or is this completely incompatible with the way we exist today? So, without much ado, I'd like to welcome our guest today. We've got this fantastic person, somebody that, I've known for a number of years now, and I greatly admire. Her name is Sidra Iqbal. She's a celebrated broadcast journalist, media communications expert, policy influencer, also an entrepreneur like myself. She's one of the most powerful youth icons who champions causes of substance and highlights the real issues through her media work. And you must be seeing her on and off on TV, doing fantastic things. Recently, she started her own YouTube channel as well. So without much ado, let me welcome Sidra.
Assalamu alaikum, Samar. Thank you so much for those very generous words and for having me over. It's such a pleasure, and what a meaningful initiative you've taken with impacting lives. I think all of us, we have a duty, and it's splendid to see you doing your bit.
Thank you so much, Sidra. So it's fantastic to have you. I was just telling the audience that I've admired your work for a long, long time. I think the first time that we met was probably through Habib University. आपको हमने रिक्वेस्ट किया था कि आप इतनी you young people look up to you, तो हमने रिक्वेस्ट किया था कि can you champion Habib University's cause as well. And it's been, there's been this fantastic journey that
Looking
you've gone.
back, in fact, I was just connecting with my dear friends from the Habib University, Tatir, you know, that she's a common friend of ours, and Wasif Saab recently, who I see as an elder brother, as a mentor, was on my show recently. You know, some organizations, they have such an impact on your life and they continue walking the same vision, which is very inspiring. I was very happy to learn that when during the COVID-19, a lot of people are going through financial restraint, Habib University has already announced that no student would be, you know, allowed to drop out only because they're having financial difficulties. So they'll make sure that everybody's taken care of. And I thought that was a really compassionate gesture. Yes, that's where we connected. And after that, I remember you and I connecting again for the IBA marketing conference where I had asked you and requested you to be on my panel. And we were talking about how, again, we can impact life with programs which have a macro impact. And I can see that your love and your commitment to that cause is continuing.
अच्छा, so now that we both, established कि हम दोनों को एक दूसरे से बहुत
हम पिछले
No, but anyway, so today what I wanted to do was actually just map out your journey for us, right, for our audience, and how it all started. Yeah. So I wanted to just go ahead and introduce yourself, a little bit more in detail, and then we can take it up from there.
Well, that's, a lot of people know me as an extrovert, Samar, but I'll be very honest. One of the things which has always, daunted me and has been a challenge is when people ask me, so what do you do? I suddenly feel very judged, as if I need to impress and I need to tell them all the things that I've done in life. But I can only say that if I look back, my journey of the last 15 years as a professional, and even during my school days, my college life, I've always taken up things which have made me very passionate. Debating and public speaking were very close to my heart, which opened up many horizons for me. I found myself representing Pakistani youth at a number of international conventions. That gave me a very good understanding of the international relations. At that time, we used to call them the Millennium Development Goals. So I think coming back to Pakistan after my graduation, and during that time as well, I was dubbed as a communication strategist. My first job ever was when I was still in A levels, and I was hired as a consultant to run a summer program at the British Council for young people who would like to become better public speakers. And from then onwards, there was no looking back. It was be it be corporate events, be it be forums. I was there and I was sort of designing it. And my formal education has been of completing an MBA. I have worked at Ogilvy and Mehta as a vice president public relations. Again, the complete credit for that goes to Rahil Khan, who is again a mentor. He is my father's friend, and I have gone in with a completely open mind as to what I'd like to do. And he said that he saw the potential that I'm best suited for a PR career. And thanks to those years and being at Ogilvy, working in Hong Kong and Singapore with some of the largest brands around the world, I also became a PR entrepreneur, put my own company together. Until date, I work as a communication strategist, and I've always done it in two streams. So I work behind the scenes to turn around and to design a strategy, but I'm also my own role as influencer because of my television career is there. These days, I'm focused on my signature show, which is called Aaj Pakistan with Sidra Iqbal. Deeply, deeply fulfilling to have been a part of the television industry in Pakistan. I feel it's not just given me the voice and the ability to connect with masses, but also allowed me to gain a better understanding of the political arena, the economic arena. I've covered 3 national elections. I've covered several federal budget debates. And, just watching that entire journey from a reporting point of view, from a journalist point of view, where you sit with the movers and shakers, where you sit with the policymakers and see what can be a solution to an ongoing battle against terrorism or, an economic challenging environment, or for that matter, how the pandemic rolls out. So it's been very fulfilling. I see myself growing in the same room, see myself reskilling thanks to COVID. I think we all have gone back to the drawing board. So that's a little about me.
Yeah, I think the reskilling part is totally true. I mean, for the longest time, I was shying away from putting myself out there like this because it's like, okay, workshops, face-to-face workshops are so much different than actually just sitting in front of it. Plus, I find it extremely distracting to see myself on screen. I'm just like, acha, oh, baal yahan se hil gaye. Acha, oh, what's going on? So it's like it's
Tell
actually
me
like a
about it,
whole
Samar.
learning
Even,
curve.
even when I've done television for so many years, I think it was right after Eid al-Fitr that I decided to do the show from home because usse pehle we were just braving it, or maybe we were being a little naive. Okay, March, April, May, I spent in going to the studio every day. But come June, and I decided that I need to move the show at home because I have my elderly parents, and through me they were getting secondary exposure. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it was a different ball game altogether because now I don't get to see my guests. All I am, I'm on Skype, so I'm literally just looking at myself, connected to them via the audio. And even my aunt, she remarked the other day कि भाई बड़ी हिम्मत चाहिए होती है 2 घंटे अपने आप से बात करने के लिए रोज, but but I'm kind of enjoying that when you see the overwhelming response, the love that comes through. But coming to the other part that you've just pointed out, मैं बताऊं मैं कब से I was thinking about going digital, कि अच्छा, I will have this kind of content on my YouTube. I think COVID came as a wake up call. I mean, like, it was now or never. And आप उस वक्त इतने shaken थे, the world around you was collapsing so fast that I just decided to dive in. So I had a series, Rapta, my public policy forum. We decided to take it all digital. So we had like a series of conversations with corporate leaders, with policymakers, with academia, कि वो क्या समझते हैं आने वाले दिनों में होने वाला है. And likewise, Food Panda gave a shout out that they'd like to hire 1 million people, which was, again, I thought that this is something I want to propagate because here there are people, young people saying that we're losing jobs. I mean, nahi samajh aa raha hum kya kare. So it was a fantastic opportunity that became a great win-win tie-in. इसके अलावा during COVID only, I became the Goodwill Ambassador for the Citizens Foundation. So I mean, it has been so fulfilling. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम जो क्रिप कर रहे हैं कि 2020 बहुत बुरा साल है and the world has just closed up. No, for me, I've seen myself, my wings and my muscles flex, and I've opened up more. I'm doing more of what I really enjoy. So I would recommend the same to people.
No, I completely agree with you, right? One of the things which has been killed completely is all the time that you would lose in traveling, right? So yes, of course, all of us love traveling, but wo jo hota na, even for small meetings, because of COVID, everybody's realizing, oh, you can get all of this work done online. You can see each other. The work will happen. It's okay, right? You don't have to sit physically or wait for 3 hours. In the case of certain individuals, when you just have to kind of just sit for them to get done, it's okay.
No, but I miss my morning drive. Although I don't drive the car myself, Samar, I miss it because that was my time of actually disconnecting and connecting with myself. I'm a big music fan, so people who know me, I like in those 20 minutes to the studio or back from the studio. I'm not thinking work. I'm not thinking ye wali email bhejni hai. I'm just listening to music and I'm enjoying the scenery. I love how Karachi looks. I never have. I've always braved the Karachi traffic with a full heart. मैंने कहा मुझे बड़ा मजा आता है कोई बात नहीं क्या हुआ रौनक है लोग हैं and I miss that. For me it was like getting cabin fever कि मैं तो फंस गई हूँ कहीं पे. So that's the part I actually miss. I would
there are
love
so
to
many things there are so many things that are not normal anymore, but like you said, right, you have to have a positive outlook and you can always find the silver lining, right? So for me personally, the silver lining is okay, अच्छी बात है सारा time मुझे extra time it's getting saved, right? And in a way I think if you look at it, it's really given you an opportunity to take everything else out of your lives that you did not really need, right? So it's like
वही चीजों को करेक्ट भी तो हुआ है समर. I mean, हमारा जो सुबह ट्रैफिक में फंसना और हम लेट हो गए क्योंकि ट्रैफिक थी वाला बहाना था, यूजुअली वुड बी ट्रू फॉर आवर फर्स्ट मीटिंग, और पहली मीटिंग होती थी 9 बजे. नाउ ऑल यू नीड टू डू इज सॉर्ट ऑफ रोल आउट ऑफ बेड 8:45, मेक श्योर दैट यू वेयरिंग लिपस्टिक और आपने एक टॉप ढंग का पहना हुआ है, नीचे बेशक एंड यू जस्ट लाइक यस I am here. I have arrived. So I think कि कई चीजें हमारी सही हुई है. Like imagine before COVID, if somebody would have said कि यार I'm going to get married and I'll have like 10 people come in as guests. people would have flipped कि नहीं हम तो 250-500 लोग अगर ना आए तो ये तो आपने बड़ा कुछ you've committed a social crime. So I feel that's a positive of COVID. Now we are thinking small, we are thinking graceful, we are not going OTT. Another thing which was a personal peeve, आप और मैं हम travel करते हैं तो one of the things I love about Europe and about Dubai is कि आप सुबह 9 बजे shopping पे जा सकते हैं. If you're pressed for time, तो सुबह काम जल्दी दुकानें नहीं खुलती थी. So COVID times, and I remember Karachi में समर ये वाली debate इतनी on थी जब हम बदतरीन load shedding देख रहे थे. So people had recommended the shop owners and the traders कि आप लोग please जल्दी खोलिया करें. Daylight saving hours, we get such amazing sunlight. So open the shops early. नहीं, हम तो नहीं, हम shop खोलेंगे 12 बजे, 2 बजे और शाम तक हमारा business चलेगा. Now, because of lockdown, when people were being asked कि आप 9 बजे दुकान खोलें और 6 बजे बंद करें, shop owners came and said, please हमें 7 बजे खोलने दें. We don't mind. हम सुबह 7 बजे manage कर लेंगे. So look at how things have, these are the positives, and I hope कि COVID के बाद भी ये positives रहें.
Nico, I think they will. I think certain things will, of course, stay, and we've had enough conversations. I think you must have had conversations as well. So I think certain things will stay. I think for sure one of the things I think that all of us are realizing is how important it was to spend time with family, which we were unable to do. Right? So for me personally, my parents live 2 minutes away. So it's really been a time to reconnect and spend as much time as possible around them, even if you're working, right? Of course, there is that big thing as well, because people are not used to having you work from home 24/7 or whatever. So there are distractions as well, but I think you can work around it. But let's talk a little bit about how you've changed gears and all of the things that you're doing now. Let's take for our audience at least. Rapna ka bataye, how did you end up with that? What happened? How did that come about? And just map out your journey, right, in a way. So I think I remember hearing your TED talk where you talked about how the first debating competition actually started everything out.
Well, actually, just as I was sharing, I always enjoyed co-curriculars as well as my studies. But co-curriculars, I had made friends with the stage very early on. तो चाहे elocution हो, हमारे annual concerts होते थे at Beacon House, so चाहे dramatics हो, I was always in the forefront. And I realized that the most, fulfilling activity was actually to participate in debates and in public speaking championships, because what it did was, spark that creativity and that sense of competition as well. So I really enjoyed that all throughout my school life. I was doing it, and came the big break, as a lot of people would call it. The English Speaking Union has an international public speaking championship that invites national champions. What you need to do is have a local competition in your city, then at a country level, and then the one person who wins it represents the country at the international championship. So I was very lucky to represent Pakistan, and that was the only year, alhamdulillah, that we won the first prize. And that really catapulted me into the limelight. I received my winner's certificate at the Buckingham Palace by Prince Philip, and that put me in that circuit. And not only was I debating and public speaking, but a lot of forums that required young people from Pakistan to be represented and who were eloquent and articulate and of knowledge. And then a little bit about English Speaking Union as well. It's an organization that connect. It's a network that connects the English-speaking countries of the world, which was formed by Winston Churchill, and the Queen of England is the patron-in-chief for it. And how it continues is it has a variety of activities. So it had a very solid foundation. In Pakistan, you had all the big names like Abdul Qadir Jafar, Javed Jabbar, Barrister Shahida Jamil, among some of them who were running the organization. So imagine this 15-year-old kid, me, I had won the competition and I suddenly became Harry Potter for them. So they would have these regular sessions where I would tell you the meetings had an average age of about 65, 70. And there was me, this geeky, nerdy teenager who was made to sit in the first row. And it had a fantastic lineup of speakers coming in. I mean, we'd had diplomats, we had the chief ministers, we had the foreign ambassadors. They would come and they would give us talks about international relations and other pertinent matters. So I think that is what I owe my grooming to. A lot of people wonder how I knew the etiquettes of running a conference or a international championship or any of these power forums. Yes, I represented and I learned a lot while I was there. And likewise, this was my true grooming point, and British Council, of course. Then, once I graduated, I completed my MBA. I had started to work in media. That is when private media was opening up in Pakistan, and they needed people with the same background. So it was a very natural transition for me to be there. Simultaneously, I was also carrying on with my career at the advertising agency. I was a vice president PR at Ogilvy and Metha. It gave me a chance to work with some of the biggest brands in Pakistan, like Coca-Cola, a lot of Unilever brands, GSK, British American Tobacco, K Electric. So I got a very strong understanding of how business strategy, communication is developed, and how you look out for a multi-stakeholder environment. Because my longest stint in terms of television was also with the state television. So all in all, I think it has been a fantastic run of conducting state ceremonies, of debating matters on air, designing events, conducting events, having being a PR entrepreneur. So I think I've done a lot of very fulfilling, very exciting, very adventurous things in life. You had mentioned RAPTA. That's a public diplomacy forum. Again, I'm very grateful to Serena, who takes brilliant initiatives. I think, again, a very compassionate organization. They talk about sports diplomacy, it takes adventurous diplomacy, music diplomacy. So one of the things I wanted to do, because Serena has this amazing pull citizenry for ambassadors for the development sector. So we formulated this forum, which is focused on economy, culture, and future. And we take up relevant debates. Our mandate is to have about 6 to 8 public meetings, which we had a fantastic run of 3 years. Now we've gone all digital. So we try to have conversations till the norm normalizes. So we're conducting them digitally. So that's the story so far.
No, that's fantastic. And I'm so glad that you mapped it out for everybody to kind of hear and see, because, post event, you can actually connect the dots, right? And when you look back, you say, okay, fine, this was a milestone, and then this happened, and this triggered that, and then this happened. And, you can kind of connect all of the dots, but that's like later on, right? So when you're in the thick of things, you don't really know aap kya kar rahe hote ho. But if I was to ask you, what is something, and you've done so much fantastic work, right? But what is something which really stands out for you in terms of impact, in terms of probably the most satisfying feeling that something that you did has given you?
I think my connect with young people. Samar, I remember when I had come back from the London competition, the student who was going the year after, they got in touch with me. Once she had been shortlisted and it was all said that she'd be going to London, she somehow traced me and she called me and she's like, I'd like to get some mentoring tips. And I looked at my mom and like, okay, when I was going, and this is a 15-year-old me talking, right? So I'm like, Mom, but main jab ja rahi thi, maine to kisi se help nahi mangi thi. I did it all by myself. And why is it that this girl has traced me and now I have to give her 2 hours? I was being a little sweetie about it. And my mom turned around and she said one thing which has always stayed with me. She's like, this is compassionate charity. This is you consciously giving back. And make that the center of any work that you do, and a lot will come back. And and that's why I think the motto in life is, हम अक्सर कहते हैं ना कि अच्छा मैं एक शख्स से क्या फर्क पड़ जाएगा, I'll do one thing, my work will be forgotten, maybe the succession plan will not be there, the next person after me will not build up on it. I think my motto in life is to always leave something better than I found it, be it be an individual, be it be an organization or a project, so that I can stand tall, that I gave it consciously, I built it to the best of my abilities. So I feel anything that, be it be my work at Habib University, be it be Azme Naujawan, which by the way is a project I was really, really keen about. I remember it was launched in 2018, I guess, and it was a consortium of youth organizations coming together to form youth centers all across Karachi. And they had thought of the most far-flung areas, like you had a center in Urangi, how to actually engage young people, give them life skills so that they can be more solution-oriented, so they can, work towards. It's easy for us to say, oh, falana shaks aaya hai from a conflict-ridden, area, like Lani ki jab hum baat karte hain, Kurangi ki jab hum baat karte hain, there the young people's lives over there are very different. It is so easy to fall in the trap of becoming violent, becoming a drug addict. So any kid who is motivated over there, I think they deserve all the opportunities. And I was so happy to be a part of Azmin Naujawan, where the consortium came together and pledged to train about 1,200 young community leaders. So I think that's one project which I feel I could sense the impact. And then there were so many others at IRD. I think we had a similar run happening with adolescent girls, and getting them to understand key healthcare issues. And I still remember being at the PF Museum right before the COVID had come, and we had about 12,000 young girls from all over Karachi. I'll never forget that sight. I had that picture up on my Instagram as well. I think it was one of those moments where you understand that there is so much power when the community comes together.
No, I think those are some fantastic examples, and I can't believe, what a strong message that must have communicated to young girls. Because I think as women, the power that we have to become role models, and that serves for others to follow suit when they see somebody from their gender being able to do that. I think that's fantastic in a country like Pakistan. But tell me something, right? So when we're talking about impact, and I want to find out whether you set out to do this. What happened actually, where you actually realized that, okay, this is something that I want to continue doing because I am actually able to create impact as well. So look, for public speakers, right, and the ones who like to know that their communication skills are effective and people are listening to them, there is obviously great power in being heard, and everybody wants influence. But when was it that you realized that, okay, you know what, I'm actually creating real meaningful impact, and this is something that I want to do?
Yeah, very early on. I think one of the greatest lessons I had learned, and I learned it when I would be preparing for my speeches and the public, and I was a typical nerd, so I would do a lot of research. I would look up and say, oh, Winston Churchill used to write the closing of his speech before the opening because he wanted to be sure what is that message that he wants to leave people with. So things like that. I would read through Jinnah's speeches. I would look at Nehru's work. I would look at Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's work. So I was one of those people. And I realized the simplest of message you can give people is that always speak to express yourself. A lot of people can have a fancy degree from one of the big internationally reputed universities. They can speak really well. They can read really well. I mean, they can have like a collection of big writers that they read from. But I think you need to walk that talk yourself. You need to have that same integrity reflecting in your personal life and and relations as well. And that's where I drew my strength from. A lot of times, when we talk about our achievements and our outlook, we miss out on the hard work. There have been so many of my plans which have failed, which have bombed. I mean, things that you aspire for, work really hard. We keep telling people work hard and the whole universe will conspire to get you there. Well, that's only partly true. Sometimes our dream is so limited. We cannot grasp how big the universe is planning for us. Like maybe at one point in time, I would have wanted to grow small, fit into a certain box, seek other people's validation and say, Kecha, this is not me. Why? Because somebody's getting, cheesed off about it. But then you realize that the universe has a much bigger plan for you. So those small plans, the universe will not let them work out for you. And yes, it's going to hurt as a person. It's going to hurt your ego as well. That, oh, damn it, I worked so hard for it. Why is it that this is not worked out? But my message to anybody struggling through those moments right now is have faith. There is something much bigger, much bolder that could not have been in your imagination is unfolding. I think one of the people I really look up to and have always been inspired by is Oprah Winfrey. And she has a quote. And she said, God can have a much bigger dream for you than you can have for yourself. And your role on earth is to adapt yourself to that divine force and let yourself be released to it. So there are going to be goals and heartbreaks. There'll be backstabbing. There'll be betrayal. You'll be cheated. You'll be, aapki leg pulling bhi hogi. Lekin the only thing you need to remember is that how can I make this my strength? what is it that it is trying to show me, and how can I learn from it? That I think has been my greatest learning.
No, I think a lot of what you're saying, it resonates with me as well, because I remember, and because we were earlier just talking about Vasif, right? And he said, look, तुम्हारा सबसे बड़ा मसला ये है कि you haven't failed enough. Okay? Because I was sitting in the place and we were having this, I was getting a scolding for something or the other, and I was very upset because I'm actually a very, very sensitive person. Over time, I've improved, thank God. But now this, it was like, कोई मुझे हल्का सा कहेगा, and then I would have started crying, right? So it was like, it was a problem actually. At any time anybody would say something to me, I would just start bawling like a baby, because I would just get, that was my reaction, right? And when I was angry, I would cry and stuff. So we were having this hard talk, and he says to me, "Tumhara masla ye hai ki you haven't failed enough." Okay? So tell us a little bit more about your failures, right? So difficult things that have come across, the biggest failures, and what you did. So you've mentioned a little bit, right? Giving yourself a pep talk, pulling yourself through, but obviously at times it is disheartening. So what are some of the strategies that you've practiced? But पहले जरा problems बताए ना कि हुआ क्या था?
The failure itself. Let's begin with the fact that everybody knows that everything I do has a lot to do with communication, to be talking. So I was really an ambitious person. I was doing I was working at Ogilvy. I was working with 3 networks, freelancing with all of them. I had like 5 shows in a week running. Wednesday वाले दिन मुझे 3 networks पे simultaneously तीनों मेरे shows आते थे. So I was very driven. And suddenly I got something called the singer's modes, which by the way is when you overuse your vocals. और ये singers के साथ होता है, preachers के साथ होता है, teachers के साथ होता है. Everybody who uses a lot of talking, and that suddenly there was a development around the vocal cords that does not let you speak. Samar, I had the most excruciating 3 months of uncertainty, where if you would have been sitting 6 inches away from me, तो मैं मेरी आवाज नहीं आती. And I did not know what to do with myself. My work halted without any warning. I had tried, so I tried all the jushandas, और किसी ने कहा तुलसी पी लो तो तुलसी पी ली, किसी ने कहा ये पी लो तो वो पी लिया. And I was crying because every day offers and things would be pouring in कि जी फलाना event है. And this is like the peak of my my work in television. ये event हो रहा है, मुशर्रफ साहब का ज़माना था, या मेरे ख्याल में president आसिफ जरदारी थे. So one state event is happening, ये हो रहा है, please make time. And I'm like, I have no voice. I couldn't answer my cell phone. I couldn't do anything. You could I'm taking a break, so I'm going to chill out with friends. Now friends के साथ बैठ सको. I would be like crying all the time. And even with the doctors initially didn't know what was happening. So they'd give me medicines, and I remember the last minute, they said, okay, let's try a course of steroids for a week. If that doesn't help, we might have to operate. So it was one of those things. But thankfully, the steroids worked, and those nodes on the vocal cords, they disappeared, and my voice came back. And never again, and I'm going to take those moments for granted. I mean, there have been times when you're exhausted, आप emotionally exhausted होते हैं, तो आपको लगता है, oh my God, I have to drive to Multan for 6 hours for this event. But what keeps me going is that realization that all of this is so transient, Samar. यानी एक लम्हा में बदल जाए अगर, and if one day you don't have it, so enjoy it while you last. And I'm very mindful about the way I talk about my work. कई लोग होते हैं ना, मैंने अक्सर लोगों को देखा है कि अगर थके हुए होंगे या गुस्से में होंगे, भाई क्या मुसीबत है, मेरा काम इतना बकवास है. Never. I mean, never. This is all energy. The words are very powerful. Whatever you speak, whatever you say, however you talk about yourself, whatever you think about yourself, it can have an impact. So I tell people to be very, very mindful, and this is what I learned. Then, of course, financial constraints. And there were times when I thought my company was not going to stay afloat, or mushkil hoti thi, because I had my television career and I was running this organization. People think it's really, and you can relate with that too. As an entrepreneur, you would think that it's so amazing, it's so awesome that you are the CEO. Na,
hello, the glamour nowadays, especially.
Yeah, but I always tell young people that there's invisible ink on that visiting card. You're not just the the CEO, you're also the HR person, you're the business development person, you're the marketing person, you are the I will solve the paddas between my team members person. You are always also going to be the person, oh my God, the janitor has not come in today, or there's no tea and guests are
You're
coming
also
over.
the driver, you're also the PN, you're also the admin
Yes.
person, you're everything in between, right? You're
And
you're you're
everything in between, all rolled
um,
in one. So I think that's very taxing. Or मैं कोशिश कर रही होती थी कि if I can get like another CEO or somebody to run my business, but because we were a small business, everybody wanted us, and when they meant us, they meant कि okay, Sidra will be hands on and
absolutely.
involved. तो उससे अपने आप को मैं माइनस ही नहीं कर पा रही होती थी, and I thought I was overwhelmed. And then the singers, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि nature has this fantastic way of balancing things out. कि जब आप एक्सेस में जाएंगे, कुछ ना कुछ will snap and it will bring you back to
Absolutely.
reality. So don't wait for that snap. तो जब आपको एक हल्का सा नज दे रही होती है ना, उसी वक्त संभल जाना बेहतर है.
नहीं नहीं काफी दफा आपने देखा होगा कि people end up with bukhar and stuff, right? And they're just like, why are we getting this? But usually it's body's way, it's your body's way of telling you, calm
Please.
down, relax, stop overworking me, just take a break,
Right.
right? And I
Right.
think to our body, that's really important because jaan hai to jahan hai. And this is something which people struggle with all the time, right? The work-life balance. And at the end of the day, for somebody like you or an entrepreneur who's trying to set up the business, they're just going crazy about their business, right? It's so they need to make it successful because
I feel
again,
that
we don't value failures enough.
it's us and our masculine energy. Because study of alignment, being in a mindfulness state is also something I learned, and I learned when I was almost hitting a burnout. So मैंने ये realize किया समर कि आप दो तरह की energies होती हैं. Even for a person, we talk about yin yang. Even as women, and this is scientifically proven, they say that 75% of women in the professional running realm, especially in the corporate environment, are going to burn out. और उसकी वजह ये है कि हमारे जो roles defined हैं, they are for the masculine energy. I mean, अल्लाह ताला ने कुदरत ने हमें बड़ा मुख्तलिफ बनाया है. A man has a certain different set of hormones, so he can recharge every day. He's meant to be a hunter. This is what physiology has trained you over so many hundreds of years. I mean, there's nothing anti-feminist about it. This is just how universe has created you. On the other hand, a woman's role and her body and the way the universe supports you is that of a nurturer. So when she is supposed to be a nurturer, she can't be a hunter. And if you put that role on her, which role unfortunately has been designed by men, अगर आप industrialization के बाद तक अभी तक देखें, the corporate roles are primarily meant for men. That's why the women feel so exhausted, so depleted. कि अच्छा, I need to be a certain way, I need to be so androgenized. And I realized that you need to balance those energies. So I think women work best if they're working from a heart space. So even our businesses need to be about compassion. That's why we work so well in a social entrepreneurial sector, or something like what you are doing, where you're impacting lives, connecting lives, nurturing people. I think that's what we all need to be more and more mindful of.
No, I completely agree. And I think partially when we see the lack of women in leadership roles as well, that's why you've got corporations that have been always about not the triple bottom line. Right? They've been about profit, profit, and profit. And it has to be the way we are now. I think people are recognizing it even more and more because, unfortunately, because of all of our collective practices, we've gotten to a point where something has to give, something has to change, right? But you're absolutely correct.
Absolutely.
You're
I
absolutely
think even parents have to change. अभी हम ये बात करते हैं. It's not just the competitive or people who want to completely overhaul their lifestyle, and if God forbid you're from the lower income bracket, आप बस बच्चे को ये कह रहे हैं देखो पढ़ाई तुम्हें पढ़ाई करा रहे हैं, we're investing so much in you and there has to be a return of investment. You have to jump the class, तुम्हें ज़्यादा पैसे कमाने हैं. And I see that needs to change so drastically, Samar, because a number of parents would come to me and they're like, okay, career counseling कर दें हमारे बच्चों की, ये बताएं कौन सी degree का scope है. And I think it's high time that we start asking ourselves, what is going to make me content and joyful? हमने success को गलत define किया. The TED talk that you were talking about, how failure and success is, I mean, the way these concepts fall in place for me is one needs to have their own very personalized definition of success. I mean, yes, if I make a 6-figure salary, I will have a lot of purchasing power, I will have disposable income, but what is the cost of it? Again, which is जो भी आप कह रहे हैं Am I nurturing my relationships? Am I in a good mind space? Am I a pleasant person to be around? Can I be a person who can mentor other people? I think we have just stopped thinking in those realms. हमें बस लगता है सक्सेस क्या है, फलानी एज तक अपना घर बना लें, फलानी एज तक हमें ये वाली गाड़ी करनी है, हमारे पास इतना बैंक बैलेंस होना चाहिए. Look at it. I mean, so many people were trying to push, gain, and COVID has just put them there, given them time out. जैसे बच्चों को देते हैं, अब बैठो और सिर्फ figure out करो कि what's important to you.
No, and even more than that, right? So what you are reflecting, say, at the end of the day, like, yes, we know a lot of people, all of us, who work hard their entire lives, but the way life is structured, by the time they may be making a lot of money, do they have time to spend that money, right? What are they doing with that money?
Forget about spending that money. How connected are you? I mean, I hate to see it. People with a lot of money, they want to just numb their brains. जब तक time अच्छा था, they would be living from one vacation to the other. Imagine driving yourself to work like a slave for 365 days, and then you need to escape that life to time out for 20 days. So basically, आप जिंदगी में हर साल में सिर्फ 20 दिन जिंदा रह रहे हैं, बाकी time तो you're just slaving away. So I think how connected are you, mind, body, and soul? Yani, even when I'm making a lot of money, am I joyful while making it? It's not about कि अच्छा जब पैसे बन जाएंगे तो उनको खर्च कहाँ पे करना है. But while I'm making it, मैं बताऊँ, Samar, a lot of people मेरे show में सुबह आते हैं ना, तो मुझसे पहला सवाल ये करते हैं, how do you wake up in the morning? It's so difficult. हम तो एक दिन आए हैं. How do you do it every day? I'm genuinely happy to be waking up early. I feel so alive. I'm like this rocket in the morning. My mother always says कि अच्छा सुनो, मेरी जब तक चाय नहीं हो जाती ना, तुम जरा बात कम करो because you're too hyper. But that's the kind of energy I wish and I hope and I pray that everybody has. You need to be that self-motivated. You need to have that.
And I think entrepreneurship, that's the best power of entrepreneurship, right? So again and again, people ask, how do you know that you're supposed to be an entrepreneur? How did you know? And I was like, I was not happy doing what I was doing. And I knew this is something that I want to do. And regardless of all of the tensions that come with entrepreneurship, you wake up knowing that it's a brand new day and you're happy to attack the day, right? So I think that is kind of like the, सबसे interesting जो message आता है, बार, it keeps resonating, right? And that's why okay, this is what you're meant to do.
I do want to put it out there because we're talking about entrepreneurship Samar. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हमने ना we take entrepreneurial efforts or that stream to be again a career choice that needs to be made very early on in life. I feel that is a fallacy. ये ना सबसे पहले जो बच्चे कहते हैं कि oh, I've just graduated, now I'm going to be a startup. I feel you and I make reasonably more successful entrepreneurs because we have worked in a structured environment. So my advice to a lot of young people is, yes, you can have like a side hustle, जो तुम्हारा entrepreneurial effort है, but always get some experience in a structured environment because it will allow you to even formulate the hierarchy or the team within your own structure. अगर आपने टीम्स के साथ काम नहीं किया, अगर आपने मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर एनवायरमेंट्स में काम नहीं किया, जहां आपको ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है कि कौन आपका बॉस है, कौन आपका टीममेट है, कौन आपका सबऑर्डिनेट है, एंड हाउ डू यू डिलीवर विद दीज पीपल, वर्क विद देम, आई थिंक इट विल बी अ ग्रेटर चैलेंज टू वर्क एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर. And you will not have the right kind of interpersonal skills to take it forward. So my advice to all the young people would be, make sure that you have some experience working in a formal corporate structure.
I'm just quickly showing up, Faiza's message because again, that's something. So I think personally, by the way, just coming back to entrepreneurship for a quick second, right? I think the amount of learning that becoming an entrepreneur teaches you is phenomenal. I think everything that I've learned in the past more than 3 years now today, I would not have been learning probably while being at the job that I was at. Having said that, absolutely agreed, right? So if I look back, again, because now I can connect dots, right? If I hadn't done the Habib route, before that, if I hadn't done the Basil Fulihan Foundation route or the other pieces of work that I'd done, if I hadn't been working, if I hadn't been teaching while I was a student myself, if I hadn't taught while I was a student again in Geneva, my Wednesdays were crazy, by the way. So you mentioned Wednesdays. Wednesdays were absolutely crazy for me. My day would start at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't sleep the night before because my students were a disaster. 4 to 6 year olds मुझे बिल्कुल मैनेज नहीं करने आते थे. I was 18 years old myself. तो मुझे बिल्कुल 18 खुद थी, मुझे कुछ नहीं आता था कैसे इनको संभालूं मैं. वो कैट्स थे, डॉग्स थे मेरी क्लास में, मुझे वो क्यूट लगते थे. मेरे बराबर में my bosses used to sit right next to me, and the blinds were in that room. So I couldn't keep the blinds down. They could switch it up. Like what's happening now, right? In this girl class. So crazy days. But look, the most important thing, I think, absolutely agreed. If you work before, you create a lot of network relationships. You learn how to manage people. And at the end of the day, regardless, जब भी आप social entrepreneurship करो या entrepreneurship करो, कोई भी किस्म की, you're working with people. And if you can't manage teams, if you can't manage your clients, if and especially Pakistan mein mashallah se hamare जिस तरह के clients आते हैं, it's great to actually learn that on the benefit, while benefiting from somebody else, right? किसी और की
you're absolutely right. The client agency or the client firm understanding will always be tricky. Again, I think for entrepreneurs it's trickier because काफी जो आपके शुरू के clients होते हैं, the business development happens on relationship basis. So I feel a lot of people are unable to make that transition कि अच्छा, now this relationship has evolved. Samar is my friend, but she's also my client. So yes, I can have coffee with her, and she may know my background, and she know my, my family members on a first name basis. Yet there are deliverables that I need to deliver. और उसमें कोई कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं हो सकता. तो आई मीन थिंग्स लाइक दैट यू लर्न ओवर टाइम. अच्छा, मेरा जो सबसे बड़ा मसला था एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर, आई हैड दिस, आई एम वर्कaholic myself, so I had this sense of मेरी जो expectations थी वो बहुत high थी. I mean, alhamdulillah, if I look back at my core team that I had, they've now graduated to amazing positions. Some of them are chief marketing officers in big organizations, and they say कि अच्छा, लोगों का learning curve अगर ऐसा था तो सिद्रा के साथ हमारा learning curve ऐसा था, because I was that demanding as a boss. हो सकता है मेरा emotional quotient भी उस वक्त थोड़ा सा खराब हो, काफी खराब हो, लेकिन I really had very high expectations. Or I think I need to say this for all the entrepreneurs out there, you are working for yourself. Imagine कहते हैं कि यार किसी और के काम करने में या कंपनी में काम करने में इतना मजा नहीं आता because that just wasn't for me. I want to work for myself. See your team members with the same filter. They are working for you. They are working for an organization which they don't probably entirely own. हो सकता है equity उनको दी भी हो, but वो sense of ownership, वो sense of connection उनका नहीं होगा. तो please cut them some slack. Don't expect कि अच्छा मैं presentation के लिए रात के 2 बजे तक जाग सकती हूँ because developing this business, getting this pitch is so important to me. उनकी work life balance को खराब ना करें. They need to tune out and not receive your calls and not get work emails from you after 5 p.m. And the more you can respect that, you can retain amazing resources and talent and continue growing with them.
अच्छा, थोड़ा सा मुझे लगता है कि किसी ने हमें नाइसली, थोड़ा इतना नाइसली भी नहीं, लेकिन हमें किसी ने नज किया कि प्लीज उर्दू में बात कर लें. तो बिल्कुल ये मकसद नहीं है कि हम जो इंग्लिश में इसलिए बात कर रहे हैं क्योंकि हम चाह रहे हैं कि हम दिखाएं हमारी कितनी अच्छी इंग्लिश है, जिसके हम भूल जाते हैं काफी दफा, बिकॉज प्रोफेशनली अनफॉर्चुनेटली और फॉर्चुनेटली, बट प्रोफेशनल वर्ल्ड के अंदर हम इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज ज्यादा यूज कर रहे होते हैं बनस्बत उर्दू के.
अच्छा, मेरा तो काम है रोज सुबह उर्दू में गुफ्तगू करना, बट आई थॉट आई वाज फॉलोइंग. मुझे लगा कि समर का ये जो प्रोग्राम है वो अंग्रेजी में, तो सवाल करी उर्दू में करते हैं.
in English.
But I have a funny story in that regard. पता है, मेरे शो पे जितने लोग आते हैं, समर और हमारे प्रोड्यूसर्स बार-बार हमें ये रिमाइंड कर रहे होते हैं कि मास मीडिया के लिए तो लोग उर्दू में आपकी बात सुनना चाहते हैं. और जितने आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि जो कॉर्पोरेट बैकग्राउंड से लोग आते हैं या प्रोफेशनल आते हैं, बिकॉज फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज इन द कॉर्पोरेट एनवायरनमेंट इज अंग्रेजी, तो वो सारे अंग्रेजी में बोलते हैं. तो बीच में मुझे लगता है, वो मुझे कहते हैं ना कि इनको रिमाइंड करें. अब द ओनली पोलाइट वे जिसके जरिए मैं उनको रिमाइंड कर सकती हूँ इज लाइक दे स्पीकिंग इन इंग्लिश एंड आई एम लाइक जी बिल्कुल, जी बिल्कुल. And I feel so embarrassed at that time, जैसे मुझे अंग्रेजी नहीं आती है, या बड़ा एक awkward moment होता है.
नहीं, देखो जैसे अभी ना हम काफी सारे जो इवेंट्स कर रहे हैं ना, अपने जो काफी सारे सेशंस हैं, अब वो इंटरनेशनल लोगों के साथ कर रहे हैं. तो अभी थोड़े दिनों से मैंने ये स्टार्ट किया कि बिल्कुल शुरू में मैं इंट्रोड्यूस करा देती हूँ टॉपिक इन उर्दू, लेकिन अब ज़ाहिर है अगर कोई इंटरनेशनल ऑडियंस आई हुई है, इंटरनेशनल स्पीकर्स आए हुए हैं, तो वो ज़ाहिर है इंग्लिश में ही बात करेंगे।
नहीं,
लेकिन
और
आई एम
मैं अग्री भी करती हूँ। पता
हैप्पी।
है मेरा पहला जो शो था फॉर पीटीवी वाज द वर्ल्ड दिस वीक उसका नाम था, एंड वी यूज्ड टू कवर द टॉप स्टोरीज इन इंग्लिश। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि पाकिस्तान में द नैरेटिव, द होल डिस्कोर्स अराउंड अंग्रेजी ज़बान, उर्दू ज़बान भी थोड़ी-सी फ्लॉड है। देखिए यकीनन हम 22 करोड़ की आबादी हैं और हमारे यहाँ लोगों को उर्दू हमारी कौमी ज़बान है, मुझे फ़ख्र होना चाहिए, अच्छी उर्दू आपको आनी चाहिए। एंड आई थिंक आई हैव डन, मैंने फेयरली बहुत काम किया अपनी उर्दू पे। पहले मैं बहुत ही ज़्यादा, आई वाज़ अ इंग्लिश डिबेटर और पब्लिक स्पीकर। तो शुरू-शुरू में जब मैं आई और लाइव ट्रांसमिशन में समझ मुझे बहुत मुश्किल होती थी, क्योंकि मैं सोचती अंग्रेजी में थी और मैं फिर उसको ट्रांसलेट करती थी, तो कहीं न कहीं अंग्रेजी के अल्फाज में मिली-जुली सी तरकारी बन रही होती थी। हैविंग सेड दैट, मुझे लगता है कि आज जितनी दुनिया कनेक्टेड है और हमें जो बातें पाकिस्तान, देखिए हमें तो पता ही है ना, हमारी डिस्कोर्स तो चल ही रही है। इट इज़ द इंटरनेशनल वर्ल्ड जिसको आपने बताना है। टीआरटी ने, जो टर्किश स्टेट चैनल है, उन्होंने कितना अब एक स्ट्रॉन्ग लेग निकाला अंग्रेजी के लिए। फिर इसके अलावा आप दोहा डिबेट देखिए, यानी दीज आर ऑल एग्जाम्पल्स वेयर पीपल रियलाइज कि जो जबान दुनिया बोल रही है उस जबान में हम अपना मौकफ सामने रखें। तो जब तक आप और मैं जो हम कंटेंट क्रिएट कर रहे हैं इंग्लिश में नहीं करेंगे, लोगों को नहीं पता चलेगा कि पाकिस्तान में इन चीजों के बारे में लोग क्या सोचते हैं।
देखिए हमने ना अपनी कंट्री को रिप्रेजेंट करना है, और जब हमें रिप्रेजेंट करना है अपनी कंट्री को, जब हमने नेगोशिएट करना है किसी और के साथ, हमें उनकी ज़बान आनी ज़रूरी है, राइट? और
बिल्कुल।
हमें बोलनी ज़रूरी है। लेकिन क्योंकि ये वाला पर्टिकुलर प्रोग्राम लोग आपको सुनने के लिए बैठे हुए हैं, बहुत सारे पाकिस्तानी ही नौजवान बैठे हुए हैं, तो ठीक है, और वेल रिमाइंडेड। अच्छा, ये मुझे थोड़ा-सा बताओ कि हाउ आपके लिए जो कामयाबी है, ठीक है, उसकी क्या, व्हाट आर द डायमेंशंस, क्या-क्या डिफरेंट उसके पहलू
आई
हैं
थिंक
कामयाबी?
अब जो मैं सारों को कह रही थी कि कामयाब या जिंदगी में आगे बढ़ने के लिए पहले हमने उसका पैमाना पैसा बनाया हुआ था कि जितनी दौलत इकट्ठी कर लें, गाड़ी हो, बंगला हो, फलानी एज तक शादी हो जाए, फलाने नंबर के बच्चे हो जाएं। उसमें से पाकिस्तान में इट्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, किसी ने मुझे रिसर्च सर्वे बताया था, बल्कि हम जब एडवर्टाइजिंग एजेंसी में थे, आइडियल फैमिली साइज डिस्पाइट आवर पॉपुलेशन हमारे यहाँ कपल्स का है कि 4 बच्चे होने चाहिए, जिसमें हमें जोड़ियां चाहिए, हमें 2 लड़के और 2 लड़कियां चाहिए। तो कुछ लोगों के लिए सक्सेस ये है कि घर भी हो, बंगला भी हो, शादी भी हो, 2 बेटे और 2 बेटियां। आई थिंक कि अब हमें इन तमाम पैरामीटर से निकल के ये सोचना चाहिए कि क्या चीज मुझे खुशी और सुकून देती है। और अगर आप इंटरनेशनल रिसर्च, दुनिया भर की रिसर्च देख लें, उसमें जो चीज आपके लिए सबसे ज्यादा फुलफिलिंग होगी, सबसे ज्यादा आपको इत्मीनान देगी, वो है सर्विस। मैन हैज, हम जिस वक्त से पैदा होते हैं ना समर, साइंस ये कहती है आवर बॉडी स्टार्ट्स टू डाई, यानी रोज आपके सेल्स मर रहे हैं और आप स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं, आप ऑक्सीजन, खाना, पानी दे रहे हैं ताकि आप सरवाइव कर सकें। और इंसान की एक हमेशा से ख्वाहिश रही है, हम प्रोक्रिएट भी इसलिए करते हैं, हमारे यहाँ औलाद भी इसलिए होती है, फैमिली सिस्टम भी इसलिए है, क्योंकि इंसान को पता है कि आई वांट टू लीव समथिंग बिहाइंड, मैं अपनी कोई लेगेसी दुनिया में छोड़ के जाना चाहता हूँ। सो व्हाई इज इट दैट वी आर लिमिटिंग दैट लेगेसी टू घर बना लो। आप ये अलमिया देखें कि हमारे यहाँ माँ-बाप जब पैसे इकट्ठे करके एक बहुत बड़ा-सा घर बनाते हैं, 500 गज़ का, 1000 गज़ का घर बना लिया। एक साहब को मैंने देखा, उनकी कहानी आई थी कि जी उन्होंने बड़ी मेहनत करके 3 फ्लोर के घर बनाए, और उनसे किसी ने पूछा क्यों बना रहे हो? तो उन्होंने कहा कि जी मेरे 3 बेटे हैं एंड आई वांट कि जब मैं ना रहूँ तो वो हर एक की शादी हो और ये सब साथ रहें। एंड द फर्स्ट थिंग, पहली चीज़ जो बच्चे करते हैं जब वालिदैन की आँख बंद होती है, उनको वो फैमिली हाउस ही बुरा लगता है, वो उसको बेचते हैं, अपने हिस्से अलग-अलग करते हैं और अलग रहने लगते हैं। सो आई थिंक इट्स सच अ फैलेसी कि आप ज़िंदगी में कामयाबी को रुपए, पैसे, दौलत इकट्ठे करने से इक्वेट करें। आई थिंक अपना इत्मीनान, इल्म, सर्विस टू अदर्स, और उसको जितना देरपा बना सकते हैं। जैसे हम कहते हैं ना कि कुछ लोगों के लिए अच्छा अमल ये है कि आज समझ, मुझे सड़क पे कोई भूखा इंसान मिला तो मैंने उसको खाना खिला दिया। बट आई थिंक इट्स मोर इम्पोर्टेंट दैट आई क्रिएट अ सिस्टम ताकि ये कल को भूखा ही ना हो, बल्कि वो इस पोजीशन में आ जाए कि वो 10 भूखों को खाना खिला सके। तो आई थिंक वी नीड टू स्टार्ट। अभी भी अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह पूरी दुनिया मानती है कि पाकिस्तान से ज़्यादा चैरिटेबल नेशन कोई नहीं है। हम सब में फिलैंथ्रोपी है, हम दूसरों का ख़्याल रखते हैं। हमारी पैरेलल इकोनॉमी लोगों को ख़्याल रख के चलती है, चाहे कोविड हो, इसके अलावा कि कोई कुदरती आफ़त आ जाए तो वी स्टेप फॉरवर्ड एंड वी हेल्प पीपल। इसी तरह मेरे ख्याल में बहुत अहम है कि आप, मेरे लिए कामयाबी ये है कि मैंने एक दिन में कितने लोगों को की मदद की। जैसे हम कहते हैं ना, सदका दें आपकी बलाएं टलती हैं। जहां आपको लगने लगे कि आप जिंदगी में स्टक हो रहे हैं, आप मेंटली डिप्रेस हो रहे हैं, या पैसे नहीं आ रहे हैं, या किसी मुश्किल में फंस गए हैं, प्लीज लुक वेयर यू आर ब्लॉकिंग द एनर्जी, और एनर्जी यही है कि आप दूसरे की मदद करें, आप दूसरे के लिए वक्त निकालें, आप दूसरे का एहसास करें. दैट टू मी इज कामयाबी.
That's very beautiful, सिद्रा. बहुत ही खूबसूरत तरीके से आपने बयान किया है कि क्या आपके लिए क्या है कामयाबी. ठीक है, अब जाहिर है वो हर किसी के लिए फर्क है. थोड़ा सा एक छोटी सी ना बात ऐड करूँ मैं यहाँ पे. ठीक है, जब हम क्योंकि थोड़ी बहुत फिलोसफी की भी बात कर रहे हैं, या आपको क्या चीज है जो कि खुश करती है. सो यूनिवर्सिटी के टाइम पे एक फिलोसफी थी जो अभी तक यूनिवर्सिटी जाहिर है उसी के अराउंड वो बिल्ट हुई है, उसी की उसके बिल्कुल सेंट्रल है. योसेन, एब्सोल्युटली. ठीक है, तो आपको भी याद है. और उस टाइम पे मुनीर फाशे साहब एक दफा आए हमारे पास, जिन्होंने हमें योसेन के बारे में ज्यादा डिटेल में बताया. योसेन लेक्चर हो रहा था हबीब यूनिवर्सिटी में, और जब उन्होंने एक्सप्लेन किया, एक उनकी बात मुझे जो बिल्कुल हमेशा के लिए याद रहेगी. उन्होंने कहा कि देखो, जब तक तुम्हारा जो असली योसेन है और जो भी तुम काम कर रहे हो या जो तुम्हारा करियर है, जो भी आप कर रहे हो, जब तक वो दोनों चीजें डिफरेंट डायरेक्शंस में है, मुख्तलिफ रुख उन्होंने इख्तियार किए हुए, आप एक्चुअली सेटिस्फाइड नहीं हो सकते, या आप जो ना सुकून वाली जिंदगी नहीं गुजार सकते. तो बहुत अरसे तक मैंने ये बात, जब तक मैं हबीब यूनिवर्सिटी में काम करी थी, बहुत खुश थी मैं. लेकिन उसके बाद फिर जिंदगी ब्रॉट मी टू इस्लामाबाद आ गई, डिफरेंट चीजें की जो भी. लेकिन एक सर्टेन पॉइंट आया जहाँ पे मुझे लगा कि वो रोज रोज रात को एक बर्निंग क्वेश्चन था. ठीक है, बहुत सारे एक्चुअली बर्निंग क्वेश्चन थे और वो मुझे तंग कर रहे थे, अगेन एंड अगेन मुझे तंग कर रहे थे. और फिर एंड में आई रियलाइज, अच्छा ओके, व्हाटएवर जो भी मैं कर रही हूँ ये मेरा योसेन नहीं है. और एपिफनी का आप यकीन करो, एवरी सिंगल डे देयर इज सो मच ऑफ योसेन देयर. और एक जर्नी है. सो जस्ट फॉर द ऑडियंस, खाली उनको बताने के लिए कि योसेन है क्या. इट बेसिकली एक फिलोसफी है जो कि आपको कहती है कि द गुड ऑफ एवरी ह्यूमन बीइंग is in the worth of every human being is in the good that you do. So जो कुछ भी आपकी वर्थ है, जितना आप अच्छा काम करोगे उसके अंदर जो गुड है उसकी 5 डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट, राइट. एंड गुड मीन्स whatever you do, आप पैशन के साथ करो, आप एक्सेलेंस के साथ करो, आप ऐसे करो कि सर्विस टू ह्यूमन काइंड, आपने किसी की मदद करनी है, किसी को यू हैव टू हेल्प समबडी आउट, म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट के साथ. तो ये नहीं आपने सोचना कि वो आप उसकी मदद कर रहे हो तो वो आपसे कमजोर है या आप उससे बड़े हो, ऐसे नहीं करना. इट्स अ म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्टफुल थिंग एंड विद एन अप्रिसिएशन टू ब्यूटी, राइट. एंड again and again, this is a philosophy that grounds me. This is my philosophy that grounds me.
आप बल्कि इसको देखो, this I feel is the universal chord in all the work. यानी हम अक्सर बात करते थे ना जब स्कूल में आप पढ़ते हैं सूफी शायरी, सेंट्स का, औलिया का कलाम जितना होता है, उसके अंदर आप देखो यूनियन की बात की जाती है कि मुझे मुझसे मिला दे. And people take it in every direction कि okay, this is love for divine. Sometimes people say कि अच्छा यार, ये जो spiritual जितनी poetry होती है उसको आप इश्क़े मिजाजी पे भी ले जा सकते हैं और इश्क़े हकीकी पे भी ले जा सकते हैं. And this can be for your beloved individual or this could be for the divine. But I have a slightly different take on it. I think this is about union with yourself. हम सब में duality अकर करती है, हम सब में light भी है, हम सब में shadows भी है, हमारी एक good side भी है, हमारी एक evil side भी है. And we feel so conflicted. हम disintegrated तभी होते हैं, वो इंतशार हमारे अंदर तभी होता है जब, जैसे आपने बहुत अच्छा कहा कि हम दो कश्तियों में एक साथ सवार होने की कोशिश करते हैं कि हम पैसा भी कमा लें और हमारी नेकी भी हो जाए. You need to combine those purposes. You need to see कि मिसाल के तौर पे if I'm working with Samar, तो इसमें win-win situation क्या हो सकती है कि समर का भी फायदा हो, मेरा भी फायदा हो, सोसाइटी का भी फायदा हो, and nobody loses out. If you can get to that, then there is no stopping you.
Yeah. Okay. मुझे पता है कि हमने 1 घंटा आपसे मांगा था, तो अब जल्दी से आपसे पूछेंगे कि आप जो हो, कोई अपना जो आपको बेस्ट एडवाइस मिली हो, किसी ने आपको कुछ हिदायत दी हो, कोई भी आपका कोई भी लेसन क्या आप शेयर करना चाहोगी? सबसे पहले कि आपको क्या बेस्ट एडवाइस मिली है जो आप शेयर करना चाह रही हो, एंड देन क्या ये एडवाइस है जो आप लोगों तक शेयर करना चाह रही हो? Is there something else that you want to leave people with?
Well, I feel I think it's not an advice, but one of the lessons I've learned very recently is not to over personalize everything. मैंने अभी recently 14-day challenge किया था, and some of our viewers right now have commented on that as well, which came as a response, by the way. It came as a response to anxiety, stress that everybody had been talking about. तो मैंने कहा चलो कुछ core concepts जो मेरी अपनी learnings and experiences से निकलती है वो मैं लोगों के साथ share करती हूँ. करती हूँ। और उसके अंदर मैंने एक वीडियो बनाई थी अबाउट रिजेक्शन, क्योंकि हमारे प्लान्स फेल भी होंगे एंड यू विल एंड अप फीलिंग रिजेक्टेड। तो उसका पॉइंट नंबर 1 यही था कि प्लीज डू नॉट ओवर पर्सनलाइज इट। यानी देखिए, जब मेरा कोई प्लान काम नहीं करता या मेरे ईगो को, मेरी प्राइड को चोट लगती है, तो इट इज सो इजी टू फॉल इन दैट ट्रैप एंड से कि ओ समर ने मेरे साथ ये इसलिए किया क्योंकि समर मुझे पसंद नहीं करती, समर मुझसे जेलस है, समर को मेरे हुलिये से प्रॉब्लम है, समर अपने फ्रेंड को पसंद करती है यानी उसको सपोर्ट करना चाहती है। आवर माइंड कैन प्ले दोज गेम्स एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी इंटरनलाइज द एंगर, वी ओवर पर्सनलाइज द स्टोरी, जिसमें आप विक्टिम बन जाते हैं, जिसमें आपको लगता है कि सारी दुनिया की जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, पिटी पार्टी है, वो आइए इनविटेशन देते हैं, आइए लेट्स ऑल कम टुगेदर एंड फील बैड अबाउट थिंग्स। सो डोंट डू दैट। आई थिंक द बेस्ट एडवाइस इज कैच योरसेल्फ, करेक्ट योरसेल्फ एंड रीराइट इट। आपको जहां लगने लगे, साइंस ये कहती है आपके पास 17 सेकंड की विंडो होती है व्हेन यू सी योरसेल्फ फॉलिंग इनटू अ नेगेटिव ट्रैप कि अब जी मैं ये रोल डाउन करने लगी हूँ इस पहाड़ी से और नीचे खाई है और मैं अब खाई में गिर रही हूँ। तो आपका काम है अपने आप को रोक लेना। व्हेन यू हैव टू स्टॉप योरसेल्फ एंड से यू नो व्हाट, दिस इज अ प्रैक्टिस पैटर्न। मेरे जहन को आदत है ये बार-बार ये वाली गंदी वाली थॉट सोचने की, उसका कोई नाम रख लें। कॉल इट द एलिगेटर थॉट, कॉल इट द स्नेक थॉट, कॉल इट द वेनमस थॉट। जो चीज आपको नहीं पसंद ना उसके नाम पे उसका नाम रख दें और आप उससे बकायदा बात करें, यू नो व्हाट एलिगेटर, आई एम नॉट गोना कम दिस वे। आज मैंने तुम्हारी बात नहीं सुनी और मैं उस वक्त कोई भी ऐसा काम करूंगी। सो स्लोली एंड ग्रेजुअली गेट इन द प्रैक्टिस ऑफ कंट्रोलिंग एंड मैनेजिंग योर नेगेटिव थॉट्स। बाय डिफॉल्ट हमारे पास जितनी स्टिमुलस एनवायरनमेंट में है, जितनी न्यूज है, हम गॉसिप करते हैं, लोगों के साथ बैठते हैं, वी बिकम स्पंजेस फॉर नेगेटिविटी. So it is upon you, it is your responsibility to break that cycle, to catch yourself, and this would be my advice to everyone. You may falter, किसी दिन आपको लगेगा यार मैं आज, I'm sorry, आज नहीं हो रहा, आज मेरा मूड है, लगाओ भाई गजलें, आज मेरा बुरा फील करने का दिल चाह रहा है. Take your moment, take your time, but then please come back, center yourself, assume responsibility, and become the warriors that you are. दिल खोल के, दिल बड़ा करके, जवां मर्दी के साथ जिंदगी गुजारिए.
I think दिल बड़ा करने की बहुत सख्त जरूरत है हम सबको. दूसरों की जो कामयाबियां हैं उन पे खुश होना चाहिए. जितना ज्यादा आप दूसरों को देखोगे और सोचोगे वो इसने कैसे कर लिया, मैं कैसे करूं, कंपैरिजन नहीं करना चाहिए. I think सारे लोग
But it's natural. पता है मैं कहती हूँ समर, फीड है. जैसे हम खाना खाते हैं, हमारी खुराक है. मैं सारे यंगस्टर्स को कहती हूँ जो कहते हैं ना कि ओ बाय डिफॉल्ट ये ख्याल दिल में आ जाते हैं. मैंने कहा प्लीज टेल मी द टॉप 10 पीपल दैट यू आर फॉलोइंग ऑन इंस्टाग्राम और ऑन फेसबुक. वही आपका बता देता है कि आपकी ओरिएंटेशन क्या है. इफ यू जस्ट फॉलोइंग फैशन ब्रांड्स, नथिंग रॉन्ग विद दैट. Then you're automatically feeling bad for yourself. You're looking at airbrushed, manipulated, photoshopped images and you're like, मैं तो ऐसी नहीं दिखती. या आप किसी सेलिब्रिटी की गॉसिप या कोई नेगेटिविटी फॉलो कर रहे हैं. Make your Insta feeds, make your Facebook feeds, your inspiration boards, your vision boards. कि मैं इससे इंस्पायर हो रही हूँ इसके काम को और मुझे यहाँ पहुँचना है. That's what I try to do.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. That was fantastic, Sidra. I think different लोगों ने चीजें लिखी हुई भी हैं कमेंट्स के अंदर एंड स्टफ. डेफिनेटली आपके जो एक फैन भी नजर आ रहे हैं मुझे, ठीक है, जो कि कह रहे हैं 14 days challenge was amazing.
Thank you. और जितने लोग जो यहाँ पे हमें देख रहे हैं जिन्होंने नहीं देखा, please go to my YouTube page. You can find it as the bio link on my Facebook as well as on my Insta. And the 14-day challenge is my gift to people. There was no Samar उसके अंदर कोई पैसे आपने देके register नहीं करना था. It was a public challenge. For 14 days we did 14 different concepts and my only appeal to people is put them in practice and share it with people who need to hear it. अगर आप तक ये अच्छी बात पहुंची है, spread it out, let other people watch it, and if you have questions, always feel free to send them to me.
Chalo, perfect ho gaya. Thank you so much, Sidra. Is there anything else that you would like to say, add, or are you good for now?
I just want people to know that नहीं मैं सबको बस ये बताना चाहती हूँ कि I've had very little interaction with Epiphany, but since Samar and I have a lot of common friends, a lot of common colleagues, I just want to take this moment to congratulate you for doing such fantastic work. I think you found the right insight in the market where there was a gap, and I find it so inspiring that you found to be your call and your purpose. और आपने उसके ऊपर focus किया. Look how far you've come. I always give young people an advice. हमें अपने लोगों की ज़रूरत है.
Sorry? Thank you so much, Sidra. I'm just saying 3 years on, right? Mashallah, 3 years हो गए.
Yes, 3 years on, and I've seen you really link up dots. और जैसे आपने खुद कहा, you had moved from Karachi to Lahore and Islamabad. So starting something out in a new city requires a lot of patience. You've done a fantastic job, and now I'll make it a point to be following your Impacting Life series. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thank you once again for thinking of me and for involving me in this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sidra, for being here with us. All right.
Pleasure.
All right. So ये थी सिद्रा इकबाल, जो कि बहुत अच्छी एक मेरी friend भी है. I would like to call her my friend. I don't really know. I mean, we don't talk very often, but whenever we do, it's always around something or the other, which is fantastic. जो कोई काम वो कर रही होती हैं, तो उसके around होता है. कभी वो मुझे बुलाती है, कभी मैं उनको बुलाती हूँ. So, and we keep bumping into each other as well, I think, because काफी सारी similarities भी हैं. So, entrepreneur भी है सिद्रा मेरी तरह. Social entrepreneurship भी करती हैं, communications भी practice करती हैं, जो कि somehow or the other, even though both of us, I don't think we set out कि हम communications particularly pursue करें. Maybe Beacon House का वो background है, मेरी बेटी भी Beacon House जाती है, वो भी बहुत बड़ी communications expert होती जा रही है. So very quickly, जल्दी से ये बताऊंगी कि 8th of August को जो next Impacting Lives का program है, एक fantastic खातून के साथ है, जिनका नाम है जहांरा. आप लोग जानते होंगे जहांरा को, नहीं जानते हैं तो वो प्रेसिडेंट है पाशा की. उन्होंने उनकी ही सारी मेहनत से, काबिशों से उन्होंने फॉर्म किया है द नेस्ट आयो, जो कि एक इंक्यूबेटर है. तमाम डिफरेंट जो स्टार्टअप्स रन करते हैं, यंग लोग जो अपना अपना कारोबार स्टार्ट करना चाहते हैं, तो उनके साथ वो काम करती हैं. उनकी वो मेंटोर भी हैं, और ऑफ कोर्स वो जो इंक्यूबेटर है बहुत ही सक्सेसफुली वो रन भी कर रही है. सो 8th को इंशाल्लाह विल बी बैक इंपैक्टिंग लाइव्स के लिए. तकरीबन यही टाइम होगा, 8 o'clock 9 o'clock, जो भी वो मैं अनाउंस कर दूंगी. लेकिन थैंक यू वेरी वेरी मच कि आपने प्रोग्राम देखा. एंड इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस, गो अहेड. सिद्रा का यूट्यूब चैनल है, प्लीज गो सर्च दैट आउट. 14-day चैलेंज अभी रिसेंटली उन्होंने किया है. एंड सेपरेटली डू सब्सक्राइब टू इम्पैक्टिंग लाइव्स. आई थिंक 100 सब्सक्राइबर्स जब हो जाते हैं तो आप नाम चेंज कर सकते हैं उसका. तो आई एम वेटिंग फॉर दैट डे. सो थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू सीइंग यू गाइस इंशाल्लाह. राइट, खुदा हाफिज़.